Get started. So what is Flutter? Flutter is Google's mobile SDK, and it is used to create native interfaces on Android and iOS from a single code base, and you would use it to build your apps in record time using Dart. Dart is the language that you would use to build your Flutter application. It is an object-oriented language, very similar to Java, but it's not as verbose as Java. So it's like, I like to say that it's in between Java and Kotlin, so not as nice as Kotlin, but not as verbose as Java. So it's kind of in the middle. And with Flutter, you can create two apps from one code base. So why do I think Flutter is great? First of all, the first reason is like the obvious cross-platform development. So you can build an Android app, an iOS app from a single code base. And the second reason is because it allows you to build performant native experiences. So I mentioned earlier about Dart, that Flutter uses Dart, and the way it's performant with Dart is that Dart compiles the code down to machine code, so ARM code. And that's the code that the phone understands, and that's what really makes it performant. And then Flutter provides a lot of built-in widgets. So with Flutter, everything's a widget, so your app is a widget, the UI is a widget, and then there are also built-in widgets for your UI, so your buttons and like your app bar. Flutter provides all of that, so you don't have to build it yourself. And if you want to build it yourself, you can do that too. And there's also platform-specific code. So if you have like specific behavior for, let's say for maps or some platform-specific behavior for Android or iOS, you can also do that with Flutter. So you can have your Flutter code, and you can also have your Android or your iOS-specific code. And then Flutter supports API 16, so Android Jelly Bean, and iOS 8 or newer. There's also this really cool hot reload functionality that I think is, like, if you are familiar with Instant Run on Android, so it's like that, but it's better in the sense that you can make changes to your app and see the change in less than a second. So you can make changes and see it in less than a second. And then I already called out Dart earlier, but I just want to mention that Dart has the two things that make Dart great for Flutter is that the first one is that it has ahead-of-time compilation and just-in-time compilation. So the ahead-of-time compilation compiles the code to machine code, and that's like what it makes it performant. And then the just-in-time compilation is what hot reload uses to make changes to the app when you save. So this screen shows apps that were built with Flutter. And you can see like the first one here, it's an iOS app, but you don't really know that it was built with Flutter. It's like very, very native. And then the third one is an Android app, and then the fourth one is also an Android app. And you don't notice, it doesn't look like a web view, and you can see like the animations are really smooth. And like that's like one of the things I really like about Flutter. So how do you get started? So like if you want to build a Flutter app, you would need an IDE. Flutter supports Android Studio, IntelliJ IDEA, Visual Studio Code, and also command line if you want to do that. So if you want to use Vim for some reason, you can do that too with Flutter. And then once you get your IDE set up, you would need to download the Dart and Flutter plugins, and then you can download the Flutter SDK from either this URL or the GitHub repository. And then you will create a Flutter project. So I'm going to walk you through how you would do that and what you get when you create one. So this is Android Studio. My setup, I already have the plugins installed. So I have my Flutter plugin, I have my Dart plugin, and I would create, I click create a Flutter application, and this application is just what I need to have Android, iOS, and Flutter, and Dart. If I wanted something like maybe like a plugin or a package or a module, I can do that as well. But for this talk, I'm going to be focusing on just the application. So you would specify the name of the application, the SDK path, and your company domain name. If you want to include platform channel support, you can do that as well. And then when you hit finish, this is what you get. So you have on the left side, you have the project structure, and on the right side, you have Dart. So this is how Dart looks. It kind of looks weird initially, but you get the hang of it. It looks a little bit like Java. And then this is like the project structure. So if we go into like the Android folder, you'll see that this looks very much like the project that you would create with Android Studio on like your Android project that you would create with Android Studio. If we go into the iOS folder, we see a similar thing. This is how it will look on Xcode if you've done that. And then so like in the lib folder, you have like your Dart code. So that's where your Dart code lives, in the lib folder. And then you have your resources and then your test folder, but I'm not gonna get into that. So this is, I mentioned earlier, that's your main.dart. We'll get into that later. So I wanted to call out the pubspec, pubspec file, and this is where you like specify your dependencies. This is where you like, if you look here, like I have like my Flutter SDK specified. I'm saying like I wanted to use material design. I also have like my Cupertino icon specified here, and I have other things like things about my Flutter application environment setup in the pubspec. So if I wanted to add like an additional dependency, this is sort of like your build.gradle on Android. So you put your dependency inside of this file. Okay, so this is the app that you get when this is like your Hello World app. It's like when you create a new Flutter application, this is your Hello World app. And it's really cool. Like what happens is that when you tap on the plus button, it increments the count. So like the count just keeps going up as you tap on it. And like this is the code that runs it. So we're gonna just go through that and see and try to highlight different things about it. Okay, before we do that, I'm gonna just explain widgets, because like widgets are like really, really important in Flutter. So widgets are the building blocks for the Flutter UI. So in Flutter, everything is a widget. So your widget is your app, your widget is your text. Your widget is, let's say you wanna center this text in your screen, the center thing is a widget. Or you wanna add padding to your text, the padding thing is a widget. So like, everything is a widget, and that's like one thing I had to wrap my head around when I started initially, that when you're building in Flutter, you have to think about widgets. So here I say that widgets are mutable. That means all the fields in the widgets are final. But if you want to make changes to it, you have like stateful widget and stateless widget. So let's take a look at that. So I have my stateless widget here. All values are final, and it does not have a mutable state, so I can't change it. But if I want to make changes to a widget, I should use a stateful widget, which requires like a mutable state. I'll need to have a state, and then the state's just, it maintains the state throughout the app's lifecycle or the widget's lifecycle. Okay, so we're gonna just explore, go through the application in the main.dart file, and I'm gonna highlight a few things that stood out to me. So the first thing I wanna highlight is the main function. So the main function is the entry function, kind of like I would say it's similar to activity on create on Android, but different. But this is just like the entry point into your application, where you call run app, and my app here is a widget. So that's what I was saying, like in Flutter, everything is a widget. So my app is a widget, so you call run app, and what run app does is just says, inflate this widget on the screen. So like, just lay out this widget on the screen. So that's what run app does. And like I mentioned before, my app, it extends from stateless widgets, so it is a widget. And then inside of stateless widget, we have to override the build function. And in the build function, we return a widget. So yeah, widget. So material app is also a widget. So inside of a material app, we have title, theme data is a widget, my homepage is a widget. So like you can just sort of get the hang of it. A lot of things in Flutter are widgets. And I wanted to call out like the theme data here, like the primary swatch. You can change the color for your application on the fly. And let's say I didn't want colors that blue, I wanted red. I can change it, and then it will change. It will change on the screen there. So let's go to my home page. So my home page, this is what shows my screen here. The title here is what shows when you tap on the recent apps button. So my home page, if I explore that, we'll see that it is a stateful widget, and I have the title, which is final, and then it calls create state, and this create state is just the state for this stateful widget. And as you can see here, in the state, I have a counter. That counter is not final because I'm going to be modifying it inside of, on this screen. That counter is what's responsible for displaying the number 4 on the screen. So that's how it manages the state. So that's it about widgets. Okay, yes, I wanted to call out that my homepage is a stateful widget. So okay, so another thing that I wanted to just call out again, I already called it out, but I wanted to call it again that hot reload is really cool, and it's just very similar to instant run, but it makes changes to your app. Like when you make changes to the app and you save or you hit hot reload, it shows up in less than a second, and it's like really, really cool. And so I'm just gonna show a demo of that. In this app, this is a Hello World app. If it plays, yes. So I'm just changing this text from Hello World to Hello droidCon SF. And then when I hit hot reload, it changes immediately, which is really cool. Like I don't have to wait long. I can just do that back and forth with my app and use it to debug. So that's cool. Let's see, what else did I want to explore? Okay, yes. So all this talk about Flutter, you're probably asking yourself, like, Flutter is just another cross-platform tool or framework, you know, and like there are others like React Native, like others like Xamarin and all of those. How does Flutter compare to those? Like, why should you even choose Flutter? Well, this is just me trying to show you why Flutter is different from the rest of the other platforms. So on the screen, you see on the left, this is your app. So this is your native app, so like your Android app or your iOS app. On the right, we have like the platform, your phone's platform. So we have widgets, your canvas, and then like the platform services. And you notice that your app communicates with the widgets, and the widget is drawn to the canvas, and events are propagated back to the widgets. And you also notice that your app can communicate with the platform code, platform services. But the downside of this is that if I want to have Android and iOS apps, I'm going to have to build it twice. So that's why I'm saying Flutter is one way to go. So another way to go would be to use a web view. So instead of having a widget, as a previous slide, I would have a web view. And that web view would just render whatever is in my application, whatever JavaScript is in my application. And if my application needs to talk to like the platform services, like the location, Bluetooth, and all of that, I would have to go through a bridge. And in order to, and going through this bridge is not cheap. Like, it's costly. So I have to pay some sort of cost because of that. Same thing with React. With React Native, I have this same bridge. It renders the OEM widgets, and in order to speak with the platform services, I will have to like go through this bridge as well. And that just takes a performance hit. Your app takes a performance hit because of that. But with Flutter, it's different. With Flutter, the widgets is in the app, the widgets are in the app, and the rendering engine is also in the app. And then your platform channels is like if you want to have, like I mentioned earlier, if you want to have like platform-specific code, you can do that as well. So I'm not saying that Flutter doesn't have like a bridge to communicate back with the platform. I'm just saying that with Flutter, it's a lot less costly than the other platforms. So the takeaway from here is that Flutter is more performant than the others. All right. So that pretty much wraps up my Flutter section. You're probably wondering, like, yeah, I know how to build a Flutter app now. How do I add smarts to my app? How do I make my app smarter? So that's where I bring up ML Kit. So ML Kit it stands for Machine Learning Kit. It's provided by Google Firebase, and it's just machine learning functionality that is pre-built. So you can have your, let's say you want like an image labeling functionality or landmark detection or barcode scanning. ML Kit provides that. Or if any of the APIs provided by ML Kit do not suit your needs, you can have a custom model. So you can create a custom model using TensorFlow Lite and use that with ML Kit as well. So I mentioned earlier it's provided by Google, and it's cross-platform, meaning that it's available in Android, iOS, and currently Flutter. But Flutter has, the Flutter library is currently being developed, so not all the APIs are available. And it also runs on the cloud and on device. So these are the APIs that ML Kit currently provides. On your left, you have image labeling, text recognition, face detection, and barcode scanning. And on your right, you have landmark detection and custom models. This is what the Firebase library in Dart provides currently. Because it's still being developed, landmark recognition and custom models are not yet available, but they're available on Android and iOS. So I'm just going to explore the ones on your left, and then we'll talk about the ones on your right, and we'll go from there. All right. So the basic thing about the gist of using the ML Kit API is that you send in an image, and it spits out image data. So the image can be a video. It can be like whatever image you want. It can be a barcode. It can be an image with faces or human beings or whatever image that you want to get data from. So you send it into the API, and then it spits out image data. And the data could be a list of faces, a list of labels, a list of barcodes, whatever data that you need. So let's start with the image labeling API. Just like the name says, it is used to recognize entities in an image without providing additional context. So that means that I can send in an image without saying anything about the image, without providing any additional context or saying anything about the image, and the ML Kit API would spit out labels for my image. So let's see how that works. So we see this image here. I sent in this image to the image labeling API, and these are the labels that I got out of it. So we see here that it has a label, a flower pot, and it also has a confidence ratio. So the confidence ratio just says, this is how much I'm confident that this image contains that label. That's pretty much what it says. And so like, this is not so accurate because like I don't see a TV here, even though I see a screen, I don't see a TV here. And when I did it initially, there was also an additional parameter there that was not actually in the image. So it's not always so accurate. In order to improve accuracy, one thing you can do is you can say only return the labels that are like over this confidence ratio. So let's say over 0.7 confidence ratio, only return that, and then it's only going to return the flower pot, something like that. So you can do that to make it more accurate. So let's see how we'll do that in Flutter. So this is Dart. It's pretty much similar to how you have code on Android or iOS because it's a Firebase library. So it's like very, very similar. What this is like you have a Firebase Vision image class. What I'm doing here is I already have read an image file, an image into a file or from a file, and then I'm reading that image from the file, and I'm using my Vision, my Firebase Vision library to detect the labels. So I'm using label detector, detect the labels in the image, and then since it's an asynchronous call, I'm going to wait for the results of the Firebase Vision image. So when the result returns, it's going to return a list of labels. If it doesn't return, or if it returns null, it's going to return an empty list of labels. So let's see how that, what's in the label. So what the label spits out, or when you have like your list of labels, the content of that is going to be like in the previous slide I showed like confidence ratio, the label, like the name of the label, it's in English. And then the entity ID is just like the ID of the Google Graph Search API, I think. You probably won't need that, but I usually just use the confidence level and the label. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for image labeling. And then for face detection, so face detection is not facial recognition, it's just detecting faces in an image. So if I take a picture of this room and I submit that picture to the face detection API, it should detect the faces in the image and returns like face objects. And those face objects really contains, let's see, face objects contain, okay, so I'm just gonna skip over this, okay, no. Okay, I'll describe it first. So face objects contain like the bounding box for the faces, and then it also contains like the different, the classification of the face. So let's go through the code so I don't go ahead of myself. So this is how I would call my face detector in Dart. 5 is vision detector using the face detector. I'm highlighting this here because if you want to enable classification, these are disabled by default. So if you want to enable classification, what classification means is that it's going to tell you is the face smiling, or is the right eye open, or is the left eye open, that kind of thing. So it's like telling you more about the image or the faces in the image. And then if I want to enable landmarks, what a landmark is like your left eye, your right eye, your cheek, and your nose and stuff like that. I'll enable that. Enabling tracking just means like in a video stream, keep track of this face. And then the default mode that's enabled is fast, but I wanted it to be more accurate, so I enabled accurate. So that's pretty much it. You would get back a list of faces, and this is what the face contains. So this is what I was trying to say earlier. It has a bounding box, and some of the things that it contains is a landmark, and then left eye open probability, right eye open probability, and smiling probability are returned because I enabled classification. If you do not enable it, you're not going to get it. And then this is like an example of what landmarks are returned. So your left eye, your right eye, and then the position in the image, which is really cool. Like you can have like really cool use cases for this, like maybe replace the eye with something else, maybe add blush to the cheek, or maybe add a lipstick to the picture, something like that. That's like, they're really cool things that you can do with that. Okay, so that's it about face. So for text recognition, just like the name says, recognize text in an image. So you would give the API an image, and it'll spit out vision text. So it'll spit out the vision text, and this is basically what it looks like. So I just like had the different blocks so you can see how the classes look like. So this is a vision text class. It has a text and a text block. This is a text block class, and it has all these parameters in it. This is a text line, and it has all these parameters, and text element has all those parameters. So if you need, you don't really need to have text block if you don't want to, because text will tell you all the text that's in the image. But let's say you want to like maybe highlight maybe the text block or the text line or the individual text elements. You can do that just by like iterating through the list of text blocks. So it depends on your use case and what you want to do. But you already have the text from the vision text. So that's pretty much it about text recognition. So barcode scanning. So barcode scanning is just scanning barcodes of different formats. It supports a lot of formats. I don't have the list of formats, but it's really cool that you can like scan a barcode and get the response. So it's same as before, where you would get, you would send your image, and then you would get back a list of barcodes. And this is just some of the data from the object. So you have like your value type, so it's going to tell you if it's a text or if it's Wi-Fi or if it's SMS or something like that. And then you have raw value, display value, and bounding box. So bounding box is just the rectangular coordinates for where the barcode is in the image. And then display value is like what the numbers underneath the barcode, which is pretty cool. You can have like different use cases for this. Cool, so landmark detection. This is like the one that's not yet available in the ML Kit library for Flutter, but I'm just gonna go over it. So it's, the basic thing about landmark detection is that you can recognize landmarks in an image. And that just simply means that when you send in an image, you will get the name of the landmark, and you will get the coordinates, and you also get the region in the image that the landmark is. So that's really cool. Like you have like different use cases for that. So like, let's say I'm here in whatever this building is called, and I take a picture of it and I submit it to the API. It sends me back what it thinks the name of the building is, and its confidence ratio. So it usually has a confidence ratio. And then custom models. So I mentioned earlier that you may have different use cases in your app, and ML Kit does not satisfy those use cases. So like all the ones that I've gone over, let's say you want to build a smart app, but ML Kit doesn't satisfy that. You can build your own custom model with TensorFlow. Firebase supports that in the sense that it lets you host your models, and so you can just upload the model, and then it lets you, so instead of bundling the model with your app, you can just upload it to Firebase, and then it downloads it for you, and then also you can update the model using like different A/B testing configurations, which I think is pretty cool. So you should check that out if you want to. So yeah, so that's pretty much my talk. In summary, we explored Flutter. Like it was just like an introduction to, if you want to build a Flutter app, this is how you do it. We talked about widgets, and we talked about how everything in Flutter is a widget, and if you wanted to build an app, you had to understand that the app is a widget, the UI components are widgets, and we talked about building, in order to build a cross-platform app, and like why you should use Flutter. We also talked about like the different ML Kit APIs that are currently available by Google. So these are the resources that I think are useful. The first one is the documentation. One really good thing about Flutter is that the documentation is so very detailed. So if you like visit the docs website, you'll see that. And also, if you like command click into any class, you would see like a whole list of like detailed documentation. When I was reading about stateful versus stateless widgets, it was like so detailed in the code, and that was like really useful. And then this link is like really useful for Android devs to like wrap your head around, coming from an Android background, how would you build a Flutter application? I like that as well. And then this Udacity course, I recommend it. It's just a starter and build a Flutter app, and it's really cool. I also recommend the Code Lab, and then the ML Kit library is at this link. It's currently being developed, so hopefully when it's complete, you can see the landmark thing that I didn't show. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you for listening, and if you want to follow me on Twitter, you can. If you want to ask a question now or later, you can as well. So that's it. Thank you. Sure, she. Yes.
Do you have to build a brand new application, or can it be integrated in existing application?
Do you have to build a brand new application for what? You don't have to build a brand new application. So you can integrate Flutter into an existing application. So I think, so instead of creating a Flutter project like I did, you would create a Flutter module, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so you can just have like the Flutter component that's shared across both apps, and then you can still have your separate apps. There's I think Alibaba is doing that. So they have a part of their app in Flutter, and then the other parts are separate. So, sure, yes.
Are you using Flutter for production code now, or are you just exploring?
I'm just exploring. So I started because I was curious, and I kind of liked that you can, I think the first thing that caught my attention was that you can run the app on iOS, and you don't have to do anything extra to have those custom widgets for iOS and Android. So I'm not yet using it in production, but others are.
Second question about testing. Do you know anything about doing unit
So I have not done unit tests or integration tests with Flutter, but there is a lot of testing because Flutter is open source. If you take a look at the GitHub repository, you see like a lot of testing and test examples there. Any other questions? Yes?
Do you know if the barcode scanning supports medication or?
Does the barcode scanning thing support medication? I am not sure, but I can find out. Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay. Any other questions? Yes?
Do you have any inside info on when the actual 1.0 of Flutter is coming out?
You mean like the ML Kit library?
No,
Or
Flutter. I think they're still in like a preview release.
are they?
Yeah.
Okay, because a lot of companies are using it in production, so it's pretty stable. So I'm not sure actually.
Pretty stable,
Yes.
Right now it's beta 1.3, 11.3,
Mm-hmm.
and there is an event on December 4th.
Yes,
Most
the Flutter
probably
Live.
They are going to release version 1.
That's cool. Yes.
So as of now, can you actually publish apps to the iOS App Store with code written in Dart?
No, it's so okay. So it doesn't. You're not going to publish it with code written in Dart. Like I showed in my slides earlier, it's gonna Flutter compiles it to machine code. So it's gonna create the APK and the whatever the iOS equivalent is. So that's what you're gonna upload. So it's not like you're gonna use Dart or anything. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Thank you for listening. And shameless plug, we are hiring at WW. So if you want to work with us, we have San Francisco office and New York office. You can visit www.com/careers. Thank you so much for coming to my talk. Great.